He was screaming my name through the phone, raw animal panic ripping through the speaker when the truth finally landed, not as a thought, as a punch. My brother, the person I trusted with my life savings, was crying like a man being hunted. Sirens bled into the background, his breath was shredded, and right before the line went dead, he yelled 6 words that made my knees buckle. They know it was me. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my story of betrayal, and if you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that subscribe button because you are not alone. Here is how it happened. 2 days earlier, my world still made sense. I woke up to sunlight cutting through the blinds, that soft, harmless kind of morning where nothing feels wrong yet. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a bank notification. I almost ignored it, another boring balance update, but something in my chest tightened before I even picked it up. Withdrawal processed. I frowned, logged in, refreshed. The number stared back at me like a cruel joke. My savings, every dollar I'd put aside over 10 years, was gone. Not reduced, not partially missing. 0. I remember standing up too fast, the room tilting, my heartbeat roaring in my ears. I told myself it was an error. Banks mess up, apps glitch. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. I refreshed again and again. Still 0. I called the bank with shaking hands, pacing my kitchen like a trapped animal. The automated voice felt insulting in its calm. When a real person finally came on the line, she spoke gently, professionally, like someone delivering bad weather, not bad news. All transactions were authorized, she said, transferred internally, same last name. My mouth went dry. Which account? I asked, already knowing the answer. She told me, my brother's. I hung up without saying goodbye. Here's the thing you need to understand about my brother. He wasn't just family, he was history. We grew up sharing everything. 1 bedroom, 1 old bike, 1 broken home. When our parents split, it was us against the world. I protected him when he was small, he protected me when things got ugly. Trust wasn't something we talked about. It was just there, solid, unquestioned. So when he asked months earlier if I could temporarily link our accounts, just for convenience, he said, in case of emergencies, I didn't hesitate. He looked me in the eye and said, "I'd never hurt you." I believed him. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who had trusted someone simply because they shared blood, a past, a name. People think betrayal is loud, dramatic, but most of the time it slips in quietly, wearing a familiar face. I called him immediately. No answer. I texted, "Call me now." Nothing. I drove to his apartment, my thoughts racing ahead of my car. Maybe there was a mistake. Maybe someone hacked him. Maybe this was all explainable. I needed to hear his voice to believe that. His place was empty. Door unlocked, lights off, closet half cleared. The air smelled wrong, stale, rushed, like someone had fled in the middle of a life. On the kitchen counter sat his old phone charger and a single mug in the sink. No note, no explanation. That's when panic stopped being theoretical. I called the bank again, froze the account, filed a report. My voice sounded distant even to me, like I was watching myself do all of it from the ceiling. The officer I spoke to asked if I wanted to press charges. "Against my brother?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. By nightfall, my phone was still silent. Friends tried to comfort me, but their words bounced off something numb inside my chest. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that 0, that empty space where my future used to be. Rent, plans, safety, gone. The next morning, I woke up to messages from unknown numbers, missed calls, one voicemail that was nothing but breathing and wind. My heart started hammering again. Then, on the second night, my phone rang. Unknown caller. I answered without thinking. At first, all I heard was noise, traffic, shouting, something metallic clanging in the distance. Then his voice cut through, cracked and unrecognizable. He was crying, not sniffing, not choking back tears, crying. "They're after me," he gasped. "I didn't mean for this to happen, I swear. I just needed the money for a day, one day." My hands went cold. "What did you do?" I asked. He didn't answer. Instead, his breathing sped up, panic spiraling. I heard footsteps running, a car horn blared. "They know it was me," he screamed. "If anything happens, listen to me. Check the locker." The line went dead. I stood there in the dark, phone pressed to my ear, my brother's terror echoing in my head. Whatever he'd done wasn't just theft, it wasn't just betrayal. It was something much worse. And at that moment, I realized the money wasn't the only thing I'd lost. Because my brother wasn't just missing anymore. He was running. The silence after that call was heavier than the screaming itself. I stood frozen in my living room, phone still pressed to my ear long after the screen went black. My reflection stared back at me from the window, eyes wide, face drained, like someone who just watched a version of their life collapse in real time. "Check the locker." That was the last thing he said before the line died. Locker where? My brother wasn't the kind of guy with secrets. At least, that's what I thought. He lived simply. No storage units, no gym membership, no fancy hobbies that required lockers. My mind spun through possibilities, grabbing at memories like loose threads. Train station? Bus terminal? An old workplace? I tried calling him back. Straight to voicemail. I texted, nothing. I refreshed my bank app again like it might magically refill itself if I stared hard enough. Still zero. Sleep wasn't an option. I paced the apartment, replaying his voice over and over. The fear in it didn't sound fake. It didn't sound like guilt either. It sounded like someone who'd crossed a line they didn't know how to come back from. By morning, exhaustion gave way to anger. I drove straight to the police station. Sitting across from the detective felt surreal, like I was describing someone else's nightmare. I told him everything: the missing money, the empty apartment, the call, the screaming, the locker. He listened without interrupting, fingers steepled, eyes sharp in a way that made me feel exposed. "Did your brother have any debts?" he asked. "Not that I know of." "Any history of gambling, drugs, shady friends?" I shook my head, but my confidence wavered. How well did I really know him anymore? The detective leaned back. People don't usually drain family accounts unless they're desperate or being pressured. "Pressured by who?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he slid a form across the table. "We'll open a missing persons case," he said. "But understand this: if the money was transferred legally, recovery won't be fast. And if your brother's involved in something criminal, things get complicated." Complicated. That word followed me out of the station like a curse. I spent the rest of the day chasing ghosts. I went back to his apartment and searched every drawer, every folder, every crack in the walls. That's when I found the notebook. It was tucked behind the boiler, half hidden, like he didn't want to throw it away, but didn't want it found either. Most of the pages were filled with numbers, dates, amounts, names I didn't recognize. Some were crossed out violently, others circled 3-4 times. One name appeared more than any other. R. Just one letter. On the last page, written in a rushed, slanted hand, were 2 words that made my stomach drop. I messed up. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who ignored small warning signs because they didn't want to believe the worst. The truth is, red flags don't always wave. Sometimes they whisper. That night, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text. Unknown number. "You need to stop looking for him." My heart slammed against my ribs. I stared at the message, reading it again and again, hoping I was misunderstanding it. I typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "He took something that doesn't belong. You're collateral now." Collateral! I dropped the phone like it burned. I wanted to run back to the police, but fear held me in place. This wasn't just about stolen money anymore. Someone else was watching, someone who knew I was looking. I forced myself to breathe and typed again. "What did he take?" The reply came almost instantly. "Ask him about the locker." My skin prickled. "How do you know about the locker?" I whispered to the empty room. No response. Minutes passed. Then another message arrived, colder than the last. "If you go to the police again, you won't like what happens next." That's when it hit me. I wasn't just a victim. I was leverage. I barely slept that night. Every sound outside made me jump. I kept the lights on, curtains closed, phone clutched in my hand. At 4 a.m., I finally made a decision that scared me more than anything else. I was going to find the locker. I started with places that made sense. Old train stations we used as kids, the gym near his last job, storage facilities within a 10-mile radius. Each stop felt heavier than the last, my nerves stretched tight, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. By noon, I was running out of options. Then I remembered something small, almost stupid. When we were kids, my brother worked part-time at a run-down bus terminal on the edge of the city. Lockers everywhere, rusted, forgotten, the kind of place no one looked twice at. My pulse quickened. The terminal smelled of oil and damp concrete. A few buses idled, drivers smoking, eyes half closed. I walked past them like I belonged there, heart pounding so loud I was sure someone could hear it. The lockers lined the back wall, dented and numbered with peeling paint. I scanned them, my breath catching. Locker 217. That number was scribbled in the margin of his notebook. I hadn't noticed it before. I noticed it now. My hands shook as I stepped closer. It was locked. For a moment, relief washed over me. Maybe I couldn't open it. Maybe I could walk away and pretend I never came. Then I saw the padlock. It was mine. The same cheap brass lock I'd given him years ago when he moved into his first place. I recognized the scratch on the side, the dent near the hinge. I swallowed hard and reached into my pocket. The key slid in perfectly. The click echoed louder than it should. I pulled the door open and froze. Inside the locker was a black duffel bag, heavy enough that the shelf sagged beneath it, and taped to the inside of the door was a folded piece of paper with my name on it. My chest tightened as I reached for the note, my fingers brushing the bag, when a voice behind me said quietly, "Don't open that." I turned around, heart in my throat, staring straight into the eyes of someone who clearly already knew my name. And in that moment, I understood my brother hadn't just run out of fear. He ran to protect me, and whatever was in that bag was about to change everything. I didn't move. Not my feet, not my hands, not even my breath. The man behind me stood close enough that I could feel the heat of his body, smell cigarette smoke and rain-soaked fabric. His voice hadn't been loud. It didn't need to be. It carried the calm authority of someone used to being obeyed. Slowly, I turned. He was older than I expected, late 40s maybe, weathered face, sharp eyes that didn't blink enough. He wore a plain jacket, nothing memorable, exactly the kind of person who could disappear into a crowd 5 seconds after you looked away. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice thinner than I wanted. He glanced around the terminal, then back at me. "Someone giving you a chance to walk away." My fingers tightened around the locker door. "You texted me." A corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. "Good. That means you're paying attention." My heart was racing so hard it felt like it might crack my ribs. "What's in the bag?" I asked. His gaze flicked to the duffel, then back to my face. "Trouble, the kind that spreads." I swallowed. "My brother took my money." "Yes," he said easily, "he did." Anger surged up, hot and sudden. "So you admit it? You pressured him?" The man exhaled through his nose like I'd just bored him. "Your brother made choices, bad ones, desperate ones." "He was scared," I shot back. "He said you were after him." Now the man smiled, really smiled this time, and that scared me more than anything else so far. "We weren't after him," he said softly. "We were after what he took." A bus roared to life nearby, drowning out the sound of my heartbeat for a moment. I took a shaky breath. "Then why call me?" "Because," he said, "your brother vanished, and he left you holding the key." My eyes dropped to the locker key still clenched in my hand. "He didn't steal from you to hurt you. He did it because he thought family money would be safer, cleaner, easier to move." "Move what?" I asked. The man stepped aside and gestured toward the open locker. "Go on, look." Every instinct screamed not to, but curiosity and something darker, something like obligation, pushed me forward. I reached into the locker and pulled the duffel bag out. It was heavier than it looked. My hands trembled as I unzipped it. Inside weren't stacks of cash like I'd expected. There were documents, passports, multiple ones, different names, different countries. Beneath them, sealed envelopes, each marked with dates and amounts far larger than my stolen savings. And at the bottom, a small black hard drive. My stomach dropped. "What is this?" I whispered. The man's voice hardened. "Insurance." "For who?" "For people who don't want to be exposed." A cold understanding crept in. "My brother was laundering money." "Attempting to," he corrected, "poorly." My legs felt weak. I gripped the locker door to steady myself. "He didn't know what he was doing." "No," he agreed. "That's why he's still alive." The word "still" echoed in my head. "Where is he?" I demanded. The man studied me for a long moment. "If I knew that," he said, "we wouldn't be having this conversation." Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who'd learned too late that love doesn't protect you from consequences. Sometimes it just drags you closer to them. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. He tilted his head. "Now you give me the bag." My grip tightened instinctively. "And then what?" "Then your problem ends. Your brother's debt is settled. You go home, you rebuild." "And my brother?" I pressed. The man's eyes flickered just for a second. "That depends on whether he stays gone." A knot formed in my throat. "I'm not giving this to you." His expression didn't change, but the air did. It thickened, sharpened. "You don't understand," he said slowly. "You already gave us your money. This," he gestured to the bag, "is you just finishing the job." I shook my head. "This isn't mine to give. Everything in that locker became yours the moment you opened it. That's how he planned it." Something about that stopped me cold. "What do you mean?" The man reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen and held it out. It was a message thread from my brother. The last message sent hours before he disappeared read, "If anything goes wrong, she'll find the locker. Don't hurt her. She doesn't know." My chest tightened painfully. He was trying to protect me. "Yes," he said, "and he succeeded. So far. So why threaten me?" "Because protection has limits, and time is one of them." He stepped closer. "You have 24 hours. Either you hand this over, or we start assuming you're like him, lying, hiding, running." "I already went to the police," I blurted. "That was a mistake." His eyes darkened. "Then you've made things much harder." Fear crawled up my spine. "You said if I went to the police—" "I said you wouldn't like what happens next. I didn't say it would be immediate." He took a step back, pulling his jacket closed. "We'll be in touch." "Wait," I said. "How do I contact you?" He smiled thinly. "You don't." And then he walked away, blending into the terminal crowd like smoke. I stood there shaking, clutching the duffel bag like it was a live bomb. I didn't go home. I drove for hours, mind racing, heart hammering. Every car behind me felt like a threat. Every red light felt like a trap. When I finally stopped, it was at a cheap motel on the edge of town, the kind with flickering signs and stained carpets. I locked the door, pulled the curtains, dumped the contents of the bag onto the bed. That's when I noticed something I'd missed. One of the passports had my photo, my face, my eyes, but the name wasn't mine. And beneath it, tucked into the lining of the bag, was another folded note in my brother's handwriting. "If you're reading this, I'm already gone. Don't trust them, and don't trust the police." My chest tightened painfully. There was more written below, but the ink was smudged, rushed. Only 3 words were clear: "They will blame you." I sat there in the dim motel room, surrounded by evidence of crimes I didn't commit, holding an identity that wasn't mine, realizing something terrifying. My brother hadn't just emptied my savings, he'd set me up to disappear in his place. And somewhere out there, he was still running, or already caught. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number, 1 new message, clocks ticking. The motel room felt smaller by the second. That message, clocks ticking, sat on my phone like a loaded weapon. I didn't reply. I didn't move. I just stared at the bed, at the passports spread out like pieces of a life I never asked for. One of them was me. Not just a similar face, my face. Same mole near the eyebrow, same crooked smile I hate in photos. Whoever made this hadn't guessed. They'd studied me. My brother had given them everything. I locked the bathroom door like that would somehow help, and turned on the shower to drown out my thoughts. The water was scalding, but I didn't adjust it. Pain was easier than panic. I pressed my forehead against the tile and tried to breathe. Think. Slow. Logical. If I handed over the bag, maybe this would end. Maybe my brother would stay alive. Maybe I could rebuild from zero and pretend this never happened. But the passport with my face said otherwise. You don't make fake identities for people you plan to let walk away. I shut off the water, wrapped myself in a towel, and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were steadier now, not calm, but focused. Fear had tipped into something sharper. Resolve. I opened the hard drive. At first, my laptop refused to recognize it. Then a single folder appeared, password protected. I tried my brother's birthday, failed. Our mother's birthday, failed. Then, without thinking, I typed my own. The folder opened instantly. My stomach dropped. Inside were videos, documents, audio recordings, names, transactions, dates stretching back years. Not just money laundering, bribes, shell companies, evidence tying legitimate businesses to organized crime. And faces. Politicians, executives, people whose names I recognized from the news. This wasn't insurance. This was a nuclear button. My brother hadn't just messed up. He'd stolen leverage powerful enough to get him killed, or protected, depending on who controlled it. My phone buzzed again. Another message. We're being patient. I exhaled slowly and typed back. You want the bag? We need to talk. The reply came after a pause long enough to make my heart pound. Where are you? I didn't answer. Instead, I set a photo, just the hard drive on the motel bed, no background, no clues. You don't own this, I typed. Neither do I. 3 dots appeared, stayed, disappeared. Then, "You're in dangerous territory." I almost laughed, almost. "So is everyone on this drive," I replied. Silence. Minutes passed. 10, 20. I started to wonder if I'd just signed my own death warrant when my phone rang. Same unknown number. I answered. "You're braver than your brother," the man said. "Or dumber," I shot back. "You decide." A low chuckle. "What do you want?" "I want the truth and my brother." He sighed like I'd asked for too much coffee. "I can give you one." "Then start with the truth." There was a pause. Then, "Your brother wasn't supposed to take the drive. He was moving money. That was his job. Courier level. He got curious." "And when you found out?" "We tightened the leash," the man said. He panicked. "He stole from me to cover his tracks," I said. "Yes, and to buy time." "For what?" "For you," he said. That hit harder than I expected. He knew once we realized what he had, we'd look at everyone close to him. Family is leverage, always has been. So he tried to turn me into a ghost? Yes. My hands curled into fists. Where is he? Another pause, longer this time. He checked into a port city under a false name. After that, we lost the signal. Lost. Not escaped, not disappeared. Lost. "I said you weren't after him." "We weren't," he replied. "Others were." My chest tightened. Others? There are multiple interests tied to that drive. Some of them don't negotiate. I closed my eyes. "Here's what's going to happen," he continued. "You bring the bag to us, we secure the drive. In return, we stop looking at you." "And the police?" "They'll keep looking," he said, "but without pressure from us, it'll be noise." "And my brother?" I asked again. A beat. "If he's alive," he said, "this helps his chances." If. I stared at the peeling wallpaper, at the crack running down the wall like a fault line. "You said 24 hours. You have 12 left." I swallowed. "Where?" He gave me an address, industrial, anonymous. The call ended. I sat there for a long time, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Hand it over and hope, or run, with evidence powerful enough to burn half the city down and my name already printed on a passport that wasn't mine. I packed slowly. I didn't take the bag. I took only the hard drive. Then I did something my brother had explicitly warned me not to do. I went to the police, not the local station, internal affairs. I walked in shaking, asked to speak to someone senior, and placed the hard drive on the table between us. "I'm being hunted, and this is why." The room changed instantly. Phones were picked up, doors closed, faces hardened. They asked questions I couldn't answer, and answered some I hadn't asked. An hour later, a woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice leaned toward me. "You understand that once this goes official, there's no walking away." "I understand." She studied me. "Your brother?" "I want him alive, and I want my name cleared." She nodded once. "Then you need to trust us." I hesitated, just for a second. Then I nodded. They moved fast, too fast. Safe house, new phone, no windows, the kind of place that smells like disinfectant and secrets. That night I lay awake on a narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd just traded one danger for another. At 2:17 a.m., the burner phone rang. The woman answered it in the hallway. Her voice was low, urgent. When she came back, her face had lost some of its calm. "They found the motel," she said. My heart dropped. "How?" "They're better than we thought," she replied, "and they're not happy." "What about my brother?" I asked. She hesitated. "We got a hit," she said. "A body turned up near the docks." The room tilted. "Identified?" she whispered. "Not yet," she said, "but there's something you should see." She handed me a tablet. On the screen was a blurry surveillance image, a man in a hoodie, half turned away from the camera, taller, thinner, alive. But what froze my blood was the timestamp. The footage was from 30 minutes ago, and just as I processed that, my burner phone vibrated in my hand. One new message: "You made the wrong choice." Attached was a photo. My brother, on his knees, hands bound, looking straight into the camera. Alive. For now. The photo burned itself into my eyes. My brother's face was bruised, lips split, one eye swollen shut, but he was alive, breathing. A thin line of blood ran from his temple down his cheek. Behind him, I could see concrete, a chain-link fence, industrial lighting. The burner phone slipped from my fingers and clattered onto the floor. "They have him," I whispered. The woman from Internal Affairs was already moving. Orders were barked into radios, screens lit up. The safe house filled with tension so thick it felt like static in the air. "They're forcing your hand," she said, calm but tight. "This is escalation." "They said if I gave them the bag," my voice cracked. "They lied." "Of course they did," she replied. "They're running out of time." I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who learned this the hard way. When powerful people feel cornered, they stop negotiating. They start demonstrating. Another message came through. "You go public, he dies." My chest felt hollow. "They know about the police." "They suspected," the woman said. "Now they're certain." I picked up the phone with shaking hands and typed, "Let him go. You already have what you want." The reply came almost instantly. "No, we want compliance." Another message followed before I could respond. "Bring the drive. Come alone." The address was different this time, a warehouse near the river. "They're setting a trap," I said. "Yes," the woman agreed, "and we're not letting you walk into it unprepared." "You said once this went official," I began. "There's no walking away," she finished. "That doesn't mean we abandon you." She explained the plan quickly, too quickly. Wires, surveillance, backup staged out of sight. I'd be bait whether I liked it or not. "And if they kill him anyway?" I asked. She didn't lie. "Then we make sure they answer for it." That wasn't enough. It would never be enough. An hour later, I was sitting in an unmarked car, staring out at the city lights sliding past. Everything looked the same as it always had. Shops closing, people laughing, lives continuing. No one knew that my entire world was balanced on a decision I never should have had to make. The warehouse loomed out of the darkness, all rust and shadow. "Remember," the woman said through the earpiece hidden under my collar, "you control the pace. Don't rush, don't provoke." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I stepped out of the car with the hard drive in my pocket and my heart in my throat. The door creaked open before I touched it. Inside, the air was cold and damp. The lights buzzed overhead, illuminating rows of crates, and nothing else. No sign of my brother. Then I heard him, a muffled groan. I followed the sound, my footsteps echoing too loudly, until I saw him. He was tied to a chair in the center of the room, same bruised face, same fear in his eyes, until he saw me. "No," he rasped, "you shouldn't be here." Tears burned my eyes. "I'm here. I've got you." A slow clap echoed through the warehouse. The man from the terminal stepped into the light, flanked by two others. He looked almost disappointed. "You're predictable," he said. "Let him go. I demand the drive." He smiled. "We want assurance." I pulled the hard drive from my pocket and held it up. "This ends when he walks out." The man studied me, then nodded to one of his people. They stepped behind my brother, loosening the ropes, just enough to give me hope. "Put the drive on the floor," the man said. I hesitated. My brother shook his head weakly. "Don't," he whispered. "They'll kill you." "They already tried," I said softly. I set the drive down. The man stepped forward,
And that's when everything went wrong. The lights went out. Shouting exploded from every direction. Footsteps, gunshots. I dropped to the ground, covering my head, my heart slamming so hard I thought I might black out. "Police! Don't move!" Chaos. I crawled toward my brother, hands shaking as I fumbled with the ropes. "I've got you," I kept saying over and over like a prayer. Then I felt hands grab me, hard, dragging me backwards. I screamed. The man's face appeared inches from mine, twisted with rage. "You think this ends clean?" he snarled. A shot rang out. He stiffened, then collapsed. Sudden silence. Officers swarmed the space, weapons raised. Someone pulled me to my feet. Someone else cut my brother free. He collapsed against me, weak but breathing. For a moment, just a moment, I thought it was over. I was wrong. An officer approached the woman from Internal Affairs, his expression grim. He whispered something in my ear. She closed her eyes. "What?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. "The drive," she said quietly. "It's gone." My breath caught. "What do you mean gone?" "In the confusion," she said, "someone took it." My brother laughed, a broken, hysterical sound. "I told you, it never ends." As sirens wailed outside and officers secured the warehouse, I realized the worst truth of all. We'd saved our brother, but we'd unleashed something far bigger, and whoever now held that drive had the power to destroy us both.
The warehouse emptied slowly, like the aftermath of a storm. Blue lights flashed against rusted walls. Officers moved with clipped urgency, voices low, controlled. My brother sat on the ground, wrapped in a thermal blanket, shaking, not just from cold, but from shock. I stayed beside him, my arm around his shoulders, afraid that if I let go, he might disappear again. The drive was gone. That single fact drowned out everything else. "Who had access?" I asked, my voice hoarse. The woman from Internal Affairs, Agent Keller, I finally learned, didn't sugarcoat it. Everyone, which means anyone. "That includes your people," I said. She met my gaze steadily. Yes. That was the moment my trust cracked. They moved us to another safe location before dawn. This one felt different, more permanent, more sealed. No windows, multiple checkpoints, armed guards who didn't smile. My brother was taken for medical evaluation. I wasn't allowed to go with him. "He needs to be debriefed separately," Keller said. "He's terrified," I snapped. "He just got kidnapped, beaten. And he stole evidence that destabilized multiple criminal networks," she cut in. "Right now, he's both a victim and a liability." I hated that she was right. Hours passed, no sleep, no updates, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the weight of uncertainty pressing down on my chest. Finally, Keller returned. "He's alive, stable." Relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. "But," she continued, "there are things you need to know." She slid a folder across the table. Inside were photos, surveillance stills, financial charts, names I recognize now, not just from the drive, but from headlines, people who shook hands on television and smiled for cameras. "The drive you brought us," she said, "wasn't the only copy." My stomach tightened. "How many?" "We don't know," she admitted. "Your brother duplicated portions. He moved fragments to different locations." "Why?" I whispered. "Because he didn't trust anyone, including us." I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one who learned this. Sometimes the people who love you the most still don't believe you'll survive the truth. "He thought if something happened to him," Keller continued, "you'd be safer if the information was scattered." "And now?" I asked. "Now," she said, "whoever took the drive is trying to find the rest." A chill ran through me. "You think it was an inside job?" "We're investigating that possibility," she said carefully.
which meant yes. They let me see my brother later that day. He looked smaller, older. The confidence I'd grown up with was gone, replaced with something fragile and raw. "I never meant to hurt you," he said immediately, voice breaking. "I swear, I just needed time. I thought I could fix it." "I know," I said, though part of me still ached with anger. "But you don't get to decide what ruins someone else's life." He nodded, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I was trying to save yours." Silence settled between us. "They took the drive," I said. "I know," he replied softly. I froze. "How?" He looked at me, eyes heavy. "Because they knew where to look." My pulse spiked. "Who?" He hesitated. "Say it," I urged. He swallowed. "One of the agents." The room seemed to tilt. "Which one?" I asked. He shook his head. "I don't know the name, but when I was being moved before you came in, I heard a phone call, code phrases, same ones I heard before." Fear crawled up my spine. "Before when?" "Before everything went wrong, when I was still working as a courier." I leaned back, heart pounding. "You're saying this goes deeper?" "Yes," he said, "and it's not just criminals, it's protection, cover, years of it." A knock interrupted. A guard stepped in. "Time's up." They took him away before I could say anything else. That night, I couldn't sleep. My thoughts spiraled about the drive, about Keller, about the way the man at the warehouse had been so sure someone would grab it in the chaos. At 3 a.m., my burner phone vibrated. No alert sound, just the screen lighting up. Unknown number. You should have listened to him. My heart slammed. "Who is this?" I typed. A reply came with a photo, not of my brother, of me leaving the safe house earlier that evening from across the street, time-stamped. My hand shook. "We know where you are," the message continued, "and we know what your brother hid." I stared at the wall, suddenly aware of every vent, every camera, every shadow. "What do you want?" I typed. A pause, then, "To finish what he started." Another message followed. "There's a second drive, and you're going to help us find it." My breath caught. "Or," I typed. The reply came slower this time, deliberate. "Or your brother disappears again. This time, no rescue." I deleted the messages immediately, heart racing. I wanted to run to Keller, to scream that we had a leak, that we were compromised. But my brother's words echoed in my head. "Don't trust anyone." The next morning, Keller briefed me with the same calm authority as before, too calm. "We're relocating you again, for your safety." I studied her face, looking for cracks. "Did you find who took the drive?" "Not yet," she replied smoothly, "but we're close." A lie. I could feel it. As they escorted me down the corridor, my phone vibrated in my pocket, silent but insistent. Another message. Locker, different city, same number. My brother's contingency. My chest tightened. They were ahead of us, of all of us. If I told Keller, whoever was leaking would know instantly. If I didn't, I'd be walking straight into another trap. At the end of the hall, Keller stopped and turned to me. "Do you trust me?" she asked. I looked at her, badge polished, posture perfect, eyes steady. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized the most dangerous decision wasn't whether to run or fight. It was deciding who to believe. Because somewhere out there was another drive, another weapon, another chance to save or destroy everything. And I had to choose my next move, right now.
I didn't answer Keller right away. The hallway hummed softly around us. Fluorescent lights, distant footsteps, the low murmur of building that never truly slept. Everyone else looked normal, professional, calm. That's what terrified me. "Do you trust me?" she asked again, quieter this time. I thought of the warehouse, the vanished drive. The photo taken of me from across the street. Trust, I realized, wasn't a feeling anymore. It was a gamble. I trust facts, I said finally, and right now I don't have enough of them. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Not anger, calculation. Fair answer, she said, but you don't have the luxury of neutrality. She gestured for me to follow. As we walked, my phone buzzed once more in my pocket, silent, insistent. I didn't check it. Not yet. Every instinct told me that whoever was messaging me was watching for reactions, timing, movement. They wanted me isolated. We reached a secure briefing room. Keller keyed in a code and the door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. She pulled up a digital map on the wall. Ports, warehouses, storage facilities, red dots spreading like a disease. This is what we're dealing with, she said. Multiple criminal syndicates layered over corrupt corporate interests. Your brother didn't steal from one group. He disrupted a balance. And now everyone wants leverage, I said. Yes, she replied, including people inside the system. There it was. Not an admission, but close. I need to see my brother, I said. She hesitated. Too long. He's being moved, she said, for his safety. My stomach dropped. Moved where? Black site. Temporary. The word slammed into me. You promised. I promised to protect him, she interrupted, and right now the safest place for him is somewhere no one can reach him, including me. That's when I knew. Not everything she was doing was for our benefit. I nodded slowly. Okay. Relief flickered across her face. That was mistake number one. They escorted me to a vehicle within minutes. 2 agents in the front, Keller beside me in the back. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Halfway through the drive, my phone vibrated again in my pocket. Silent, insistent. I didn't check it. Not yet. Every instinct told me that whoever was messaging me was watching for reactions, timing, movement. They wanted me isolated. We reached a secure briefing room. Keller keyed in a code and the door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. She pulled up a digital map on the wall. Ports, warehouses, storage facilities, red dots spreading like a disease. This is what we're dealing with, she said. Multiple criminal syndicates layered over corrupt corporate interests. Your brother didn't steal from one group. He disrupted a balance. And now everyone wants leverage, I said. Yes, she replied, including people inside the system. There it was. Not an admission, but close. I need to see my brother, I said. She hesitated. Too long. He's being moved, she said, for his safety. My stomach dropped. Moved where? Black site. Temporary. The words slammed into me. You promised. I promised to protect him, she interrupted, and right now the safest place for him is somewhere no one can reach him, including me. That's when I knew. Not everything she was doing was for our benefit. I nodded slowly. Okay. Relief flickered across her face. That was mistake number one. They escorted me to a vehicle within minutes. 2 agents in the front, Keller beside me in the back. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Halfway through the drive, my phone vibrated again in my pocket. Silent, insistent. I didn't check it. Not yet. Every instinct told me that whoever was messaging me was watching for reactions, timing, movement. They wanted me isolated. We reached a secure briefing room. Keller keyed in a code and the door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. She pulled up a digital map on the wall. Ports, warehouses, storage facilities, red dots spreading like a disease. This is what we're dealing with, she said. Multiple criminal syndicates layered over corrupt corporate interests.
Your brother didn't steal from one group. He disrupted a balance. And now everyone wants leverage, I said. Yes, she replied, including people inside the system. There it was. Not an admission, but close. I need to see my brother, I said. She hesitated. Too long. He's being moved, she said, for his safety. My stomach dropped. Moved where? Black site. Temporary. The words slammed into me. You promised. I promised to protect him, she interrupted, and right now the safest place for him is somewhere no one can reach him, including me. That's when I knew. Not everything she was doing was for our benefit. I nodded slowly. Okay. Relief flickered across her face. That was mistake number one. They escorted me to a vehicle within minutes, 2 agents in the front, Keller beside me in the back. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Halfway through the drive, my phone vibrated again in my pocket. Silent, insistent. I didn't check it. Not yet. Every instinct told me that whoever was messaging me was watching for reactions, timing, movement. They wanted me isolated. We reached a secure briefing room. Keller keyed in a code and the door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. She pulled up a digital map on the wall. Ports, warehouses, storage facilities, red dots spreading like a disease. This is what we're dealing with, she said. Multiple criminal syndicates layered over corrupt corporate interests. Your brother didn't steal from one group. He disrupted a balance. And now everyone wants leverage, I said. Yes, she replied, including people inside the system. There it was. Not an admission, but close. I need to see my brother, I said. She hesitated. Too long. He's being moved, she said, for his safety. My stomach dropped. Moved where? Black site. Temporary. The words slammed into me. You promised. I promised to protect him, she interrupted, and right now the safest place for him is somewhere no one can reach him, including me. That's when I knew. Not everything she was doing was for our benefit. I nodded slowly. Okay. Relief flickered across her face. That was mistake number one. They escorted me to a vehicle within minutes, 2 agents in the front, Keller beside me in the back. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Halfway through the drive, my phone vibrated again in my pocket. Silent, insistent. I didn't check it. Not yet. Every instinct told me that whoever was messaging me was watching for reactions, timing, movement. They wanted me isolated. We reached a secure briefing room. Keller keyed in a code and the door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. She pulled up a digital map on the wall. Ports, warehouses, storage facilities, red dots spreading like a disease. This is what we're dealing with, she said. Multiple criminal syndicates layered over corrupt corporate interests. Your brother didn't steal from one group. He disrupted a balance. And now everyone wants leverage, I said. Yes, she replied, including people inside the system. There it was. Not an admission, but close. I need to see my brother, I said. She hesitated. Too long. He's being moved, she said, for his safety. My stomach dropped. Moved where? Black site. Temporary. The words slammed into me. You promised. I promised to protect him, she interrupted, and right now the safest place for him is somewhere no one can reach him, including me. That's when I knew. Not everything she was doing was for our benefit. I nodded slowly. Okay. Relief flickered across her face. That was mistake number one. They escorted me to a vehicle within minutes, 2 agents in the front, Keller beside me in the back. The city blurred past the tinted windows. Halfway through the drive, my phone vibrated again in my pocket. silent, insistent. I didn't check it. Not yet. Every instinct told me that whoever was messaging me was watching for reactions, timing, movement. They wanted me isolated. We reached a secure briefing room. Keller keyed in a code and the door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. She pulled up a digital map on the wall. Ports, warehouses, storage facilities, red dots.
The city didn't explode the way movies promised. There were no instant arrests, no dramatic press conferences within minutes, no single moment where everything clearly ended. Instead, the fallout came in waves, slow, relentless, impossible to outrun. I ran anyway, not because I thought I could escape it all, but because standing still felt like waiting to be crushed. I left the bus terminal through a side exit, blended into the early morning crowd, and kept moving until my legs ached and my lungs burned. Every screen I passed was already lighting up. News tickers, social feeds, emergency alerts. Names I'd seen on that drive were everywhere now. Some spelled out boldly, others hinted at in careful legal language. Videos were being replayed, slowed down, analyzed. Journalists were tripping over themselves to confirm what the internet had already decided was real, because it was real. I ducked into a small cafe and sat in the corner, hood up, shaking hands wrapped around a paper cup I never drank from. The barista didn't recognize me. No one did. Not yet. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "He's out." Just 3 words. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in days, my chest loosened enough for me to breathe properly. "Where?" I typed back. A moment passed. Safe, for now. I leaned my forehead against the table and laughed, quietly, brokenly. Relief and fear tangled together until I couldn't tell them apart. Outside, sirens wailed. Inside, people scrolled and gasped and whispered. The world was catching up. Hours later, another message came through, this time a location, a public one. I didn't hesitate. He was waiting on a park bench near the river, thinner than I remembered, wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. When he saw me, he stood too fast and almost lost his balance. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then I crossed the distance and hugged him. He felt fragile, real, alive. "I thought I'd never see you again," he said into my shoulder. "I almost didn't," I replied. We sat side by side, watching the water move like nothing in the world had changed, like systems didn't burn and rebuild themselves every day. "They'll be looking for us," he said quietly. "I know. They won't stop," he added. "I know that too." He looked at me then, really looked, like he was seeing me for the first time. "You burned it all down." I shrugged weakly. "You lit the fuse." He winced. "I'm sorry." I believed him. That didn't erase what he'd done. It didn't bring back my savings or the version of my life where trust was simple and blood meant safety. But it mattered. "Do you regret it?" he asked. I thought about the drive, the stream, the moment my finger hit the screen. "No," I said finally. "I regret that it took this to force the truth out." We didn't stay long. You don't linger when the ground is still shaking beneath you. We parted with no promises, just an understanding that surviving sometimes means walking in opposite directions. That was the last time I saw him in person. In the weeks that followed, the fallout accelerated. Arrests, resignations, sudden medical leaves, investigations announced with carefully chosen words. Some people fell hard, others landed softly, a few vanished entirely. Agent Keller's name surfaced briefly, never confirmed, never denied. Internal Affairs released a statement, an inquiry was opened, then quietly closed. I was offered protection, new documents, a chance to disappear properly this time. I said no. Instead, I went public, not with evidence, not with accusations, but with my story.
I sat in front of a camera, looked straight into the lens, and told the truth as I lived it, the betrayal, the fear, the choice. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized something that stayed with me. People weren't shocked by the crimes, they were shaken how ordinary it all started. A brother, a shared account, a simple yes given without thinking. That's how it always begins. My channel grew faster than I expected, not because of spectacle, but because of recognition. People saw themselves in the cracks, in the trust they'd given too easily, in the systems they'd assumed would protect them. I never shared names again, never dropped files. That part of my life was over. The truth was already out there. What mattered now was what we did after. I rebuilt slowly, painfully, dollar by dollar, trust by trust. I learned to ask harder questions, to draw boundaries even with people I loved, especially with people I loved. Sometimes, late at night, my phone still buzzes with unknown numbers. I don't answer them. Some doors, once closed, are meant to stay that way. If there's one thing this story taught me, it's this. Betrayal doesn't always come from enemies, and loyalty, real loyalty, isn't blind. It asks questions, it demands truth, and when the moment comes, it chooses what's right, even when it costs everything.